Greetings and welcome, Cyd.
Hello, Amy. So good to be back with you.
Nice to have you here. And greetings, Green Warrior. Green Warrior, are you ready to transform your health and discover the secrets to vitality? Today, we are going to delve into 3 critical food mistakes often missed by doctors. Plus, get ready to tantalize your taste buds with a sensational cooking demo featuring Cyd's black bean Mandarin Quinoa Salad recipe. Oh, Cyd, I am so excited about this. You have been on Be Green with Amy Live many times, but this is the first time that you are going to do a food demo for us.
I know I was inspired by Vicki Brett Gock when she was on your show recently doing a cooking demo, and I thought, hey, I think I'll do a cooking demo too.
Yeah, so we are so lucky to have you because you're a food for life instructor. So this is a really big deal for us.
Yeah, so with me, you get a twofer. You get a little slide presentation and a cooking demo.
And it's always nice to see all that information coming from you because you're just so knowledgeable about all these things, and you know how to make food taste delicious, and you know about the nutrients and what are the things that we need to power our body. And you also have been on the show so many times talking about restaurant tips and talking about how we can avoid temptations and how we can regulate what we're eating. So we're in for a lot of information today. Why don't we just start off with our game of true or false?
It's time for True or False on Be Green with Amy Live. Answer true or false to Amy's questions in the comments below, and Amy will ask our guest for the expert answer.
Okay, Green Warrior, get ready. True or false? Calorie density refers to the number of calories in a given weight of food. True or false? Okay, they're going to type in their answers. And Cyd, go ahead. Tell us about that.
The answer to that is true. Calorie density does refer to the number of calories in a given weight of food, typically a pound of food. And we'll be talking about that in the slideshow a little more deeply.
Oh, I can't wait to hear more about that. That's very good news.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see what else we have. The next question is true or false? Expeller pressed extra virgin olive oil has less fat than regular olive oil. Okay, Green Warriors, tell us what you think. Okay, go ahead and tell us
That
the
is
answer, Cyd.
that is false. All oils are 100% fat. So just because an oil says it's extra expeller pressed or extra virgin does not lower the fat amount. So all oils are 100% fat, so that would be false.
Okay, well, see, you just never know what you're going to learn on Be Green with Amy Live and from Cyd. And there's so many misconceptions and contradictory information out there about healthy fats and olive oil. So I'm glad that you helped to dispel that. And why don't we just start our slides, Cyd? Do you want to do that?
Yep, let's get into it.
Uh,
We are going to talk about 3 food mistakes that lead to health problems the doctors aren't solving. And it also talks about weight loss in here too, because the two are often connected. So these 3 food mistakes would also apply to maintaining a healthy weight. Um, the mistakes that we're making that, contribute to excess weight. So let me ask you if you have ever started a diet on Monday and then fell off the wagon by the following Friday. I know I've done that in the past, back in the day. Or did you manage to lose a few pounds only to gain them all back again? Well, if that's you, trust me when I say that you are not alone at all, because the biggest reason is that diets don't work. So today's typical diet plans have about a 3% success rate long term. A lot of today's diets, all the low carb, you will lose weight on that initially, but you're risking your health and the weight's going to come back on. It's not a permanent solution. So that means that 97% of people that follow one of today's typical diet plans will not have long-term success. So it's probably not your fault, right? If you're gaining weight and you're suffering with declining health, because that is the body's normal response to eating abnormal food, right? When we're eating abnormal food, that's just how our body's going to respond. So the good news is that we can do things about that. We have a lot of control over that. So today I'm going to share three of the biggest food mistakes, which can not only sabotage our weight loss efforts, but lead to health problems that the doctors don't solve. So it doesn't have to be that way when it comes to those diets that don't work. So let's start with mistake number one, which is focusing on calories rather than calorie density. So, calorie counting is not the way to go because oftentimes it's very inaccurate. It takes a lot of time and effort and a lot of willpower because it often results in these tiny little portions which aren't going to fill us up. So, it's not sustainable over time because nobody wants to be hungry, right? We want to eat until we're full and not be hungry. Calorie density, on the other hand, and that was one of the questions that we talked about, refers to the number of calories in any given weight of food, typically a pound of food. So, foods that are high in calorie density have a large number of calories per pound, whereas foods that are low in calorie density have a lower number of calories per pound. So, let's take a look here at how calorie foods weigh in when it comes to calorie density. So we've got fruits and veggies, potatoes, whole grains, beans, legumes coming in between 100 and 600 calories per pound. Whole grain pasta too, 600. And then avocados, animal foods, ice cream, refined carbs and white flours between 750 and 1400 calories per pound. Cheese and sugar are 1700. Junk food and chips can be up to 2,300. Nuts and seeds and nut butters like peanut butter are 2,800 calories per pound. Butter, 3,200 calories per pound. And then oils are 4,000 calories per pound. So the average, the American Cancer Institute, rather, and the World Cancer Research Fund both recommend that we lower the average calorie density in our American diet to 567 calories per pound. So that allows us to eat freely of the starches and veggies and fruits and whole grains and beans and legumes. And of course, that's without the addition of those extra sugars and fats. Now, some of those higher calorie dense plant foods, like the avocados and nuts and seeds, and nut butters, those can still be used sparingly because that average is spread out over the day. So it's okay to use those higher calorie dense plant foods as a condiment. For example, throw a few walnuts onto your oatmeal or a few slices of avocado in your burrito. But those foods that are higher in calorie density also have a much higher fat content too. So if you're trying to accelerate your weight loss or reverse a chronic condition, then those higher fat plant foods are best eliminated or at least greatly reduced. So here's an example, and I'm sure many of you have seen this chart. This is an example of how foods that are low in calorie density allow us to fill up our stomach with a lot more food, but for far fewer calories. So there we have what 500 calories looks like in a stomach, starting with oil on the left-hand column, followed then by cheese and then meat, and then what 500 calories of potatoes, beans, and rice looks like, and then fruits and veggies. So keep in mind that your stomach is about the size of your fist, and it's important that we don't starve ourselves, but it's important that we don't stuff ourselves either because our stomachs can stretch. They can expand to accommodate large portions when we overeat. So we don't want to be overeating. We want to fill our stomach up till we're comfortably full and then be satisfied, right? Just in case anyone out there is wondering, hey, are you suggesting that we eat carbs like rice and potatoes? And, in case there's anybody out there that has that misconception still in their mindset, then yes, we are suggesting that you eat carbs like rice and potatoes and beans because not all carbs are created equal. There's a big difference between complex carbs and unhealthy refined carbs. So the complex carbs are the whole plant foods that we've been talking about. potatoes, beans, rice, corn, legumes, veggies, fruit, and whole grains. Whereas the refined carbs are those processed foods made with stripped and refined flours, refined sugars, added fats, lots of sodiums, and that would be things like pastries and snacks and cookies and bread, white bread. So for optimal weight and health, we want to focus on complex carbs while we avoid the refined junk food carbs. So how does this apply to you? Well, if you're the decision maker on what's for dinner, make starch the center of your meals with recipes like barbecued lentil loaf with mashed potatoes and gravy, or cheesy broccoli soup. Yes, there are ways to make delicious cheesy soups and sauces just by using plant foods with no dairy. And then there's plant-based burgers like smoky bean burgers or, all kind of different burgers, usually grain-based or bean-based. Serve those along with a side of fit fries. And we've got African peanut stew and black bean lentil taco soup, one of my favorites. Easy lasagna roll-ups, hearty chilies with cornbread and chickpea salad sandwiches and stuffed peppers. And there are thousands of recipes out there. If you're not familiar with whole food plant-based eating, which I'm pretty sure everybody here is, but you never know who's watching. If you're just thinking about getting into this, don't be overwhelmed that you have to find thousands of recipes at once. Just find 6 or 8 to start that you're going to like and that you can repeat until you add some new ones in. Okay, so that was mistake number 1, was focusing on calorie counting rather than calorie density. Mistake number 2 is the consumption of extracted oils. So remember that calorie density chart that we just showed. Let's take a look at that left-hand column again and talk about extracted oils, which are the most calorically dense food on the planet, containing 4,000 calories per pound. And I'm always hesitant to call oil a food because really all it is the extracted fat from a food. Right? Did you know that that's what oils are? They're just the pure liquid fat that's been extracted or pressed from olives or vegetables or nuts or seeds or coconuts or fish. And as mentioned, they weigh in at 4,000 calories per pound. They are highly refined products, again, 100% pure liquid fat, and 1 tablespoon has 120 calories and 14 grams of fat. That's a lot of fat. So just 3 tablespoons a day, which is not unusual in the American diet at all because of all the oils in our processed foods, our bakery items, our salad dressings, and restaurant food. Just 3 tablespoons a day can lead to 3 extra pounds per month without adding any bulk to the food, right? We're just basically coating our food with fat or including extra fat in the foods that we're eating. So not only are oils huge weight busters, but they are health busters as well because they damage that protective endothelial lining on the inside of our arteries. And when that happens, it paves the way for plaque formation. If you follow Dr. Esselstyn at all, you know all about the endothelial lining. It's a lining which produces nitric oxide and keeps our vessels open and the blood flowing well. But when that lining gets damaged, it paves the way for plaque formation to begin. And oils damage that lining. Plus, oils are highly inflammatory, one of the most inflammatory things we could eat. And they contribute to blood clotting issues as much as animal fats do. So I used to use oils all the time. I'm an Italian gal. So, the skillet came out, followed by the bottle of olive oil. That's just how we cooked. But we now know from thousands of cardiologists and doctors and researchers that consuming extracted oils is anything but good for us. So I always tell people, if you think you need to eat some olive oil, then toss a few olives on your pizza or your salad. Eat the whole olive. That way you're getting the fat the way it's meant to be consumed, along with all the other nutrients in the olive so that your body knows what to do with it. Just a quick note here too about coconut oil. Did I pass it? Yeah, coconut oil. Coconut oil remains popular these days, but not only is it 100% pure liquid fat, as all oils are, but 92% of it is saturated fat. So let's put that in perspective. A tablespoon of lard has 5 grams of saturated fat, and a tablespoon of coconut oil has 12. So coconut oil has more than double the saturated fat as in lard. And it's really important to understand why that matters so much is because saturated fat is rated as the most pro-inflammatory food component in our diet. So it's a major contributor to plaque formation, type 2 diabetes, dementia, and much, much more. We also want to keep our eye on other types of fats as well. Margarines, for example. If you read a margarine label, you'll notice that it's typically made with all oils. Butter, which is 100% fat, cheese, 70%, sour cream, 63%, and high-fat dressings like ranch, which is 75% fat. So we need to learn to purchase and prepare foods that do not have added oils and fats, right? And we need to learn how to cook without those as well. So how does this apply to you? Well, first know that restaurant foods are loaded with oils typically and added fats, and it doesn't matter if it's a fast food place or a gourmet restaurant. So if you regularly eat out, check the menu for potatoes, rice, beans, and salads, and veggie soups, and whole grain pasta, and portobello mushroom sandwiches, and healthy side dishes too. Typically, you can build a great meal oil-free from just the side dishes on a menu. And then ask about the hidden oils that might be inside of their dressings and sauces. You might even want to bring a small container of oil-free dressing along with you to the restaurant. And you can purchase those little containers just about everywhere. And then lastly, ask how the food is prepared. Request that your food be steamed or baked or grilled over a dry skillet. And of course, you want to avoid anything fried or sauteed in oil. And restaurants are really often very willing to work with you, especially if you call ahead and tell them that you follow a special diet for health reasons and you can't have oil for health reasons. And you can say that because you would be following a diet due to health reasons, right? Health preventive, disease preventive diet. So next, if you're the person in the house who shops for groceries, again, read those labels and avoid any product which contains any type of oil. So this picture here is for Earth Balance butter. This is a vegan butter that I used to buy all the time when we were eating vegan foods and not paying too much attention to much else. So if you check the ingredient list here, though, you'll notice that almost the entire product is comprised of oil. There's palm fruit oil, soybean oil, canola oil, and olive oil. And this product is 100% fat. And you can tell because the calories there are 80 and the calories from fat are 80. So it's 100% fat. Now, what if you typically use oils when you cook, like I used to do all the time? Well, it's easy. You just saute your veggies, like your carrots and onions and celery and peppers. Heat up a dry skillet on high, add your veggies, stir them around, and simply add tiny amounts of water or veggie broth as needed, just enough liquid to prevent sticking. The veggies will start to stick unless they're releasing a lot of water. So you don't want to add too much liquid or the veggies are going to steam rather than saute. So the trick is just to keep flipping those veggies and adding just a tablespoon or two of liquid, just enough so they don't stick to the pan until they reach the desired tenderness that you want them to be. For baked goods, you simply replace oil with unsweetened applesauce. I mean, there's other things you could do, but this is my go-to typically. It's a one-for-one replacement. So if a recipe called for a third cup of oil, you would simply use a third cup of unsweetened applesauce instead. So, and you know those little 6-pack containers of applesauce, one of those is about a third of a cup. Which food do you think here contains the most fiber? So we've got 4 ounces of milk, 4 ounces of pork chop, 4 ounces of salmon, 1 egg, or is it a trick question?
Green Warriors, get ready if you want to try to type your guess for the answer in the chat. So say it one more time, Cyd. So they
Yeah,
can...
so which food has the most fiber? And notice my little note there to be careful because it could be a trick question. 4 ounces of milk, 4 ounces of pork chop, 4 ounces of salmon, 1 egg, or is it a trick question?
Okay, so Nancy says she thinks it's a trick question. Anybody else want to guess before Cyd tells us the answer? Okay, Cyd, go ahead. They're
Okay,
still
well,
typing in. Go ahead.
Nancy is correct. It was a trick question because animal-based foods like the milk, pork chops, salmon, and eggs contain 0 grams of fiber. And that goes for chicken and cheese and yogurt and ice cream and bakery items. Fiber is only found in plant foods, right? Remember that fiber is only found in plant foods, and it is crucial to our good health. So the healthiest populations on earth are eating at least 45 grams of fiber each day. And it's not unusual for whole food plant based eaters to be getting 50, 60, or even more grams of fiber every day because, again, we're eating a lot of plants, and plants are the source of fiber. But less than 3% of Americans are getting the minimum RDA of about 32 grams of fiber a day. In fact, most Americans are getting like half of that, between 15 and 17 grams a day. So when we stick with a fiberless diet that's centered around beef and chicken and fish and hot dogs and processed cookies and snack cakes and cheese, we are looking at an increased risk of polyps and diverticulitis, constipation, higher cholesterol and blood sugar levels, an increased risk of diabetes, heart disease, and metabolic syndrome, and obesity, plus an increased cancer risk because fiber carries out all the excess estrogen and other hormones from our system. And those hormones remain in our system if we're not eating fiber. And these are just some of the issues that fiber helps to prevent or correct. And here's why fiber helps so much when it comes to weight loss, too. It's difficult to overconsume high fiber foods, such as a bowl of split pea soup has 14 grams of fiber, right? You'd probably feel like you were going to explode if you tried to eat 2 complete bowls of that. So for every 14 grams of fiber that we eat, the calorie intake is reduced by about 10%. So the weight loss occurs without without being hungry, without depriving yourself. And so it's really a win-win combination if you're striving to lose weight. So how does this apply to you, this topic of fiber? Well, if you've purposefully been avoiding fiber-filled complex carbs like beans and potatoes and lentils, start adding a variety of these plant foods to your meals by preparing recipes that are packed with plenty of fiber and protein and calcium too, so we don't ever have to worry about those nutrients as well, like sloppy joes or cheesy Mexican tortilla bake, or a variety of stir fries, or peanut noodles, or mushroom pot pie, savory mushroom pot pie, which is really good. The peanut noodles with veggies, plant-based macaroni and cheese. There are tacos, there's creamy chili pasta, there's pizza. There is carrot cake muffins and sundaes and sorbets and chocolate mousse, all plant-based and all delicious. So the foods on a whole food plant-based diet are anything but bland and boring. That's a big common misconception out there, that our food is boring. And I can assure you that that is the furthest from the truth. And I grew up in an Italian home, and I can assure you that these foods are satisfying and yummy. So, to recap our 3 mistakes, how to overcome the 3 big mistakes would be to focus on calorie density, which will allow you to shed 1 to 3 pounds a week and keep it off without counting calories or eating tiny portions. Ditch those extracted oils and accelerate your weight loss and improve your health. So, that's another win win. And then eat more fiber, which helps achieve a healthy weight and prevents a lot of health issues and can reverse those health issues as well.
We have one more true or false question. Green Warriors, true or false? All 3 of these mistakes can be overcome with one simple nutrition. What do you think, Green Warriors? True or false? Type it in the chat, and Cyd is going to tell us the answer. Okay, Cyd, go ahead.
Yeah, the answer is definitely true. We don't need a separate diet for all of these things. All of those mistakes, how to overcome all those mistakes, are part of the same nutrition plan, which is cool, right? One nutrition plan takes care of all of it. That's a whole food plant-based diet with no added oil and no dieting required. So the good news is too that no matter the status of your weight and health right now or how ingrained your habits are, it is never too late. And it doesn't have to be too hard either. It's never too late to benefit from this way of eating. So you always have the option to choose a much better plan because our bodies are always striving to heal. And when we give it the right dietary environment to do so, the healing can begin. So this way of eating is the most anti-inflammatory way of eating out there, and it's the only way proven to reverse our number one killer, which is heart disease. So if any of this resonates with you, today was just a little snippet. I've got a full-length version of this free presentation on my website. It's free. It's called 3 Food Mistakes That Lead to Painful Joints, Extra Weight, and Health Problems the Doctors Aren't Solving. So if you want a deeper dive into these topics, go there and watch that free webinar. There's a free 21-day meal plan, free smoothie desserts, and signed copies of my book are there as well. Plus, I have a courses tab where you'll see the courses that I'm offering. And if you go to the inflammation class and use the coupon code TAKEOFF50, you'll get 50% off of that class. Okay, so one thing I do know for sure is that life is too short to deal with preventable health issues. I really encourage everyone, if you're not totally on board yet, to make the switch, envision a healthier future for yourself where you're living in a well-functioning, healthy body. And one of the recipes that I'm going to create for you today is packed with fiber, protein, calcium, and is high in fiber too. So I'm going to stop sharing could you stop sharing the slides
Sure
then, Amy,
thing.
while I move?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I have some exciting news for all of you guys because we have giveaways happening. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is we have a giveaway featuring Cyd Notter's book, The Plan A Diet. And in this book, Cyd combines her decades long study of both nutrition and scripture. And Cyd Notter founded the Plan A diet to illustrate the correlations between biblical principles and healthy eating, and to encourage readers to take an active role in their health. So for those of you that follow me on begreenwithamy.com, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, you probably already have the information to enter for up to 6 ways to win this book. I will also be putting the details in the show notes that you can look for. And if you don't see them, just make a comment or send me a message, and I'll surely get you the information that you can use to get this wonderful book, a chance to win this. Or if you just want to buy it, you can do that too. It's a wonderful book, and I just love looking through it, and it's something makes a nice gift as well. I also wanted to let you know that today, later on in the broadcast, we're going to be doing a live drawing for this book from Esther Loveridge. She was just recently on the show, and she wrote this book From Donuts to Potatoes, and we have a lot of entries. It's too late to enter for this one, but you can still enter for Cyd Notter's book. So we're going to be drawing for this one a little bit later on in the broadcast.
Mandarin Quinoa Salad. And I am starting with the quinoa. So it calls for a cup of dry quinoa that you cook according to the package instructions. And you'll end up with about, 2 to 3 cups of quinoa. I'm using a clear bowl today, so you'll have a better visual of what I'm doing. So it's 1 cup of dry quinoa that you cook according to the package instructions, 1 red bell pepper diced, a 15-ounce can of black beans rinsed and drained. This is really easy. It's about 7 ingredients for the salad itself, and then we're going to make a dressing. And this recipe is so versatile, you could add whatever you want to this or take away, if you don't want a red pepper and you want to use a green pepper, whatever you want to do with it. A half cup of chopped red onion, which really gives it a nice little flavor too. And then 1/2 cup of parsley. This is flat leaf parsley, Italian parsley. And 1/2 cup of chopped cilantro, which is very good as well. And then it calls for 2 to 3 mandarins peeled and sectioned. And I use more. I think I've got about 5 mandarins in here. You could use 3, you could use 5. I love the mandarins in here, so I always put a little extra in. Again, this is so versatile, you could really do whatever you want with it. So toss this up. You'll see how colorful it is. And the dressing is what makes the salad typically. And we're going to be making a tangy date lime dressing, which is simple to make. But again, I was mentioning the protein in this. Quinoa is one of the highest protein grains you could eat. And between the quinoa and the beans and the pepper, you are getting calcium, protein, a lot of fiber, and low on the calorie density scale too. All right, so this is our salad, and I'll just show it to you before I put the dressing on. The dressing itself is simple. This is a recipe that I came up for the Scrumptious Burgers and More cooking class that I did with Vicki Brett Gock and Chef Val Wilson. So we came up with a cooking class, and that's on my website too under the courses tab if you want to check out that burger class. This was created as part of that. So here I've got 4 tablespoons of fresh lime juice, 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, a 1/4 cup of date syrup. Now I use Date Lady date syrup. The date syrup is different than date paste. I've never made this with date paste, although I think I'm going to try it. So to make date paste in your blender is simply a cup of pitted dates and 2/3 cup of water. And you just blend that in your blender until it becomes a paste, a date paste, which would be really good too in this, I think. But this recipe, I did use date syrup originally, so that's what I'm sticking with today. And then for the seasonings, I've got Italian seasoning, cumin, garlic powder, and oregano. And I believe the recipe link for this is in the show notes, right, Amy? Or
Yes, I'm going to be putting the recipe link in the show notes for everyone. And
okay,
Diana Varner, plant-based, said, looks beautiful. It really does. And we do eat with our eyes. And I love this lifestyle because we always get lots of vibrant colors in our food.
right. So it's also if it's also this recipe is also on my website. Just type in black bean and it would come up, in the search bar. All right, so that is it. So all of the quantities for the spices that I just shared would be in the recipe. Um, but basically, it was a 1/2 teaspoon each of Italian seasoning, cumin, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder and oregano. You could add a little salt or salt substitute to this if you would like to, but I don't think it's necessary at all. And I never do add salt to it. All right. And by the way, this dressing works for regular salads as well. Any place that you would use a dressing, especially on a grain, if you make a different type of grain-based salad. But it's really good in a lot of places. I think it'd be really good with a cucumber tomato salad too for summer. I think I'll try that. So you add the dressing. I use all the dressing at once in this, and I let it sit in the fridge for a while because I like this salad chilled rather than at room temperature. But you could eat it at room temperature too; it'd be fine. This could be a side dish. It could be an entire meal. I mean, it's got beans in it. This would be a good lunch too, especially on the road. You could bring it along in a container and eat it when you're ready to eat. All right, that is it. Now I'm going to do a little taste test, which is only fair. You've got to taste your stuff as you go. Mm-hmm. Very good. I should have tasted the dressing first, but it worked out in this case. But here it is, up close. Black bean Mandarin Quinoa Salad. Very, very good. This would be good for potlucks, picnics. If you're going somewhere and you need to bring a dish, this would be something easy that you could whip up and take along as well.
That looks just so beautiful, Cyd. Thank you so much. I love when these recipes come together so easily too, because
Mm.
I'm one of those people that I'm not a real fan of being in the kitchen. I'll do it, but I don't look forward to doing it. I always
Mhm.
like to eat though, so that's my motivation for cooking. But I think one of the reasons why is because sometimes I have too much, distractions and I try and I leave things on the stove unattended. So this would be a very good thing for me to do because I wouldn't have to worry about leaving it on the stove unattended. But that
Yeah.
looks just so beautiful, and, Diana Varner Plant-Based said, "Looks so easy to make." Yes, and even non-plant-based vegans should love it. I would think so. This would be a really great dish to bring to a potluck or to someone's house if you were a guest, if you wanted to bring some food. It's
Yeah.
just lovely.
And like I said, it's very so you wanted to throw green onions in here or, cherry tomatoes that have you can add a lot of things to it as well.
I think we lost you a little bit. You were saying about what you could add in there?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
very versatile. If you wanted to add green onion, chopped green onion, or tomato halves, cherry tomatoes, anything you'd want to add in there that's crunchy even would be good. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's very, very versatile.
Yeah, that's just so beautiful. I have a lot of potluck dinners at my house, and so that would be a really wonderful thing for everybody to try. And it's
Mhm,
nice because you don't have to worry about keeping it warm if you're traveling someplace, and it'd be just beautiful. So
mhm.
we have a question for you from Mary Jean Smith, and she said, "Any tips for getting back on track when you slip back into the junk food trap?" Oh, yes. What do you say, Sid?
Yeah, so I I is the junk food coming into the house? That's the first thing is to sanitize your environment from the junk food. So I'm not, I'd have a few questions before I could answer that well, but some general tips are to what happened, figure out what happened. Were you stressed out? What caused you to veer off the track? Was it an emotional eating issue or is there some type of food addiction going on? There's a lot of aspects to this question, which would need further exploration. But don't give up. That's the big thing. If you veer off the track, and we all do that, it happens to the best of us. We veer off, get back on, start with your next meal. Don't be thinking of planning, like for the next month, I can't make one mistake. What's your next meal going to be? Plan ahead, in short term. Of course, you want to stay on track, but don't become overwhelmed. Plan
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah. So what do you think, Amy?
Yeah, I agree with you, Sid, because there are so many confounding factors when it comes to slipping off plan and the junk food and first of all, I think Sid would agree with me, don't blame yourself. It's really not your fault because we have primitive brains and this junk food is designed to really tempt us and to get it's like it lights up pleasure centers in our brain like a drug does. So
Mm,
that can be really, even if somebody's not having a bad day, it could be something that could be very tempting. So that would be something. Oh, okay. Mary said, we moved across the country. Stress and yes, food addiction just need to get back on track. Oh, that is a big stressor moving,
yeah.
especially across country, because now you're in a totally different culture and you probably left behind some people. So, yeah, that would be a big
Yeah.
stressor, but I agree with Sid, sanitize everything and so often people, when they're moving, they say, "Oh, well, I'm moving, I don't have time to cook, I'm still unpacking," and all that. That can get in the way, and there are so many simple foods that you could eat, I think. For instance, I don't know where you're living, if you have access to sweet potatoes, but I love to batch cook sweet potatoes either in the microwave or in the oven. And then I have them inside of my refrigerator, and you can eat them warm or cold. You can take them with you. And I like to put them in a little silicone bag, but you could use a Ziploc bag, and you put it in there as you're traveling. And then when you want, you can just hold the bag and then just take a bite out of that sweet potato, and it doesn't get messy on you. And it's great, cold, warm, or room temperature, and it's got so much
Mhm.
fiber and so satisfying. And anytime you have that urge to eat something that's not on plan, just say, "Wait a minute. it's time for a sweet potato. And if you don't feel
Mm,
full and satisfied after that, I tell you, they're just a lifesaver for me. What do you think,
mhm.
Sid?
Yeah, I agree. And did we talk about the 4 mental tips to stay motivated on your show, Amy?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I'll put
so
a link to that in the show
yeah,
notes so that, Mary, Jean, and other people who want to watch that
yeah.
can do that because that will be a really great resource. I'm gonna definitely do that because
Mm,
I think that, if they watch that, they're gonna get a lot of tips as far as that go. But, I think a good thing that Mary Jean is doing right now, and all of you Green Warriors, you're tuning in to this show or you go on Sid's YouTube or other places. Surround yourself with podcasts and YouTube videos and books that you can get from the library. Just surround yourself every day. Be reading or listening or watching people who are talking about the benefits of this lifestyle and normalize it in your brain. And when you're always thinking about it and listening to it, then it becomes more a part of who you are. And so I have podcasts that you can go on to, Apple or wherever you would listen to a podcast, and you'll be hearing this one as a podcast. So, and the more that this becomes a normal part of your life, the more those other things, those frankenfoods, because that's what I think that they are, would be something that you'd say, "Gee, I don't wanna put that in my body because that's not who I identify as, and I know that it's gonna be deleterious to my health because of all these books and podcasts and videos and summits that I'm been a part of every day." Every day, really. Try to at least listen or read to something about this every day so that it'll be all those messages in your brain that are, telling you what the right thing to do is.
yeah, that eating this way is 80% mentality and 20% skill. Have you heard
Mm.
that, Amy? So, it's usually right between our ears is where the change needs to happen. Way of eating many times.
Yep. You're right about that, and then if we don't have people that are supporting us in our families, that can be something people can sabotage things that we're doing, so it's a lot, but you have to know that you're not the only one, and it's not your fault, and
Right.
like Sid said, the next meal, if that happened, just plan on the next meal. Try to sterilize your environment, get it all out of the house, and
Mhm.
have those sweet potatoes ready. Because I take sweet potatoes with me every time I leave the house. Even if I think I'm just going to run a quick errand and come back. Nope. It's I akin it to when if there are any moms out there that would never leave the house without a diaper bag, or if you would never leave your house without your cell phone. I don't leave my house without some sweet potatoes because I never know, I could get stuck in traffic or something else could come up, and I will never have an excuse to stop at a convenience store or drive through. It won't be there because I'll always have something nutritious and satisfying and filling with me.
That's called preparing ahead, right? That's the key
Yes.
too, is planning and preparing ahead. Always have healthy things in the fridge.
Yeah, Carrie said, "It's really hard to lie to yourself and eat crap when you're constantly getting healthy food ideas." I love that. Very good, Carrie. Very good. Oh, so Mary Jean is appreciating our input. So smart. Yeah. I think maybe that would be helpful. And reach out to a tribe, whenever if like here, people are typing in comments and they're talking to each other. And they're not all trying to comment to me or to you, Sid. Sometimes they're talking to each other and feeling like you're a part of the tribe is really important. And also, if you can find people in your area where you live, if you look at Meetup or on Facebook, you can find people that are having meetups of groups of people that are plant based. And then
Mhm.
if you get to know those neighbors, then that'll help too. Lots of different resources, but we'll put a link to that presentation that you did for us at an earlier time. Sid's been on the show so many times, and she's got lots of resources. She's very talented and very knowledgeable.
Yeah. And let's just talk one more minute about that preparing ahead. Like Do you make a weekly meal plan? Do you, Amy? Do you make a weekly meal plan?
Well, one of the things that I've been doing recently is when I have it's mostly my husband that cooks, and he's a throw together kind of guy. He can take things out of the refrigerator and just throw them together. If it was just me and I wasn't eating his food, well, I should say part of my weekly meal plan is that I make up 10 salads at a time in these lock and lock glass containers, and I do that at once. And now for 5 days for the 2 of us, I have it's a big salad. It weighs over a pound. I have a huge salad, and I know that when I come home, if I'm tired and I don't feel like, putting anything together, I'm gonna eat that salad anyway, but at least I know I have that, and that'll fill me up. It's got beans and cooked mushrooms, it's got all kinds of things in it. So that'll fill me up anyway, and then usually just eating leftovers. So we typically don't plan meals unless we're having a potluck dinner, then we'll plan out what we're gonna make for that. Oftentimes, when they have it available, we'll try to sign up for those, farmers boxes where you
Mhm.
get a box of vegetables, and then we kind of, decide what to do with it. But you and then I guess another thing that I do plan, I didn't think about it, I've been doing this since 2012. Every morning, we have a giant green smoothie every single morning, and all the veggies are either frozen or chopped up and ready to go, and so that's something that we have all the time. I do a lot of batch cooking with beans and mushrooms. Of course, we don't use oil, and so a lot of those are in individual containers in the freezer. I love those, silicone things, they're called super cubes. Have you ever used those, Sid?
Mhm.
Yeah, and they look like
Mhm.
ice cube trays, except the, vessels inside of them are, either like a half cup or a cup, depending on which one you get. Mine are a cup each, so I'll get 4, and it's like a rectangular thing with 4 one-cup vessels, and then when I batch cook, soups and stews, and the mushrooms, they go in there, I don't have to measure them, and then after they're frozen, I pop them out, and I can get 6 well, actually 8 of them in a 1-gallon Ziploc bag, and they go in the freezer. So there's another kind of planning ahead where I always have if I don't have time to cook, I can just go in the freezer and pop and get one of those cubes or 2 of them, however hungry I am, and put them in the microwave or heat them on the stove top, whichever your jam is, and within minutes, I have a wonderful meal, and I have those sweet potatoes, so I'm planning ahead with those. I can use one of those with the soup. So, yes, I guess in a way, we don't write it out what we're gonna have every day, but we do have we always have something to eat, and so in a way, we are planning by batch cooking. What do you do, Sid?
I do plan it out because my husband doesn't like to eat the same thing over and over, so I have to have variety in the house. So at the start of the week on Sunday night, I pick from 5 categories: an Italian dish, a Mexican dish, an Asian dish of some type, a pasta or a burger rather, and then a soup or a stew. So those are my 5 categories. I pick a recipe from each category and make a variety of things that are will stay in the fridge, and then I make it all at once typically in one day. I'll cook for the week in one day, so sometimes I don't. It depends on my schedule, but I prefer not to cook every day. So I try to really put my nose to the grindstone and do it all at once, which is a little bit of work, but then, during the week, then I'm free. So that's what I typically do. And then I throw in, we're going to need a breakfast, but that's oats or, some type of healthy cereal or oats or something. And then usually a muffin of some type for breakfast.
Oh, that's wonderful. See, but different types of personalities and different types of lifestyles, we can make
Mhm.
it work either way. Green Warrior, tell me in the comments, do you plan your meals for the week or do you kind of just throw things together? Let us know in the chat. I would love to see what you guys are doing as far as that goes because it's always so interesting. And then I think we have different types of people as far as the things that they like to eat. And like, for example, for your husband, he doesn't like to eat, the same thing, so you're always changing up the different fares that you, come up with, which is great because then we get to see some of these recipes that you come up with, which is very nice. My husband well, when we adopted this lifestyle, he said, "I won't do it unless it tastes good." And of course, it didn't taste good at first because we gave up sugar, oil, and salt. But then he with my help for the research part and his help with the kitchen, he discovered how to make it taste really good. But he does not like to have the same thing all the time, and he loves to have things, and we're SOS free, no sugar, oil, or salt, but he wants to have things that taste really good and have lots of flavor to them.
Mm.
And so he's always busy in the kitchen concocting things and making different things and saying, "Here, taste this." And I always have to ask him, "Is this am I tasting something that's gonna be sweet or savory?" Because I never know, is he making a plant-based cheesecake without cheese, of course, or is he making a sauce for a dish? And I wanna get myself ready in my mind, what am I about to eat? And so he's always experimenting like that. Whereas for me, I probably would just have, like, a baked sweet potato and some steamed vegetables, and maybe I'd make a little dressing up ahead of time, which is what we do. We make a big Vitamix full of, dressing about once a week, and we put in little, dressing bottles, and I'd probably just have the dressing and put it on there, or balsamic vinegar, and I'd probably just live like that my whole life, not knowing
Mhm.
what I was missing from from his cooking, and I'd be happy with it, where
Mhm.
he would say, I could never live like that."
Mm.
And Carrie said, "I suck at planning. It's so second nature. I don't need to." Okay, well, that's good,
Mm.
as long as it works for you. But if it's
Mhm.
not working for you, I think that's why Sid brought this up. If it's not working for you, maybe you need to plan, at least in the beginning, plan
Mhm.
a little bit. And because this is something that we take seriously, and it is our lifestyle. It's not just because of if we want to lose weight or maintain our weight loss. We want to be healthy, and we want to have a nice healthy lifespan, and so we want to definitely plan for those things. So I think that that's a good idea. If you're struggling, maybe just in the beginning plan a little bit, batch cook a little bit. And I think about how when before adopting this lifestyle, I used to sit with a beeper at a restaurant, you know? And sometimes for, half an hour or so, and I would think to myself, "If I was home, I could have already cooked this food, and I'm not even sitting at the table yet," you know? So,
Mhm.
you have the time, that's my point, If you've been in that situation like I have where you sat at a restaurant with a beeper, then you have the time at home because you would have been driving to the restaurant, waiting there, waiting to be served, and then driving back. And so you would have all that time you could in batch cooking for the week.
Yeah. Good point.
Barbara wants to know, how can I stay motivated and committed to the plant-based lifestyle, even when faced with obstacles or setbacks along the way?
Well, how to stay motivated, there's several tips on that, like how to stay motivated. What was your initial reason for eating this way to start with? Was it a health concern? So what motivated you to start with? That would be my first question. And why have you lost sight of that? You know, why is that motivation still not there, or what happened to that? So that would be the first question. And then is it that other people are around you eating badly? Like what is causing you to veer off the path? What are the obstacles? Is it family pressure? Or, there's different ways to handle different obstacles. So it would depend on what the obstacles are. We talk about physical food addiction, emotional eating, ingrained habits, which can be so hard to break that even when we try to break them, but we want to crowd out the bad foods with good foods, right? That is one big tip. Don't think about not having something, think about it, replacing it. Instead of denying yourself something sweet, have a handful of grapes. So, like replacing what it is that you're looking for. But I would need more information to give a more specific answer. But it depends on if what is going to mentally motivate you to stay on it.
That's very good. Yeah, without knowing, we wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
give any more information, but that's a lot of things to think about right there, so I think that
Mhm.
that's great. Well, we are going while you were setting up in the kitchen, I wanted to remind everybody again, because while you were doing that, I had told everybody that you're generously offering a copy of your book, The Plan A Diet, for a book giveaway. And we're going to be putting information for how to up to 6 ways you can win in the show notes. If you've been on my Be Green with Amy website or the YouTube or Facebook, Instagram, you probably already know how to do it. But we're not going to be drawing for this today, but we do have a book drawing for a guest that we just previously had on, which was Esther Loveridge, and she has this book From Donuts to Potatoes, and we're going to be doing that book drawing right now. And let's just put this on and see if we can get this going here. Okay, so let's see if it works. Okay, there we go. We have our spinning wheel, and we're going to be drawing for this book giveaway. So let's go and draw. So here we go. Well, congratulations, Maureen 2. I guess that's her handle, probably on YouTube or something. But yes, you won this copy of Esther Loveridge, From Donuts to Potatoes. Congratulations to you. And Esther is going to be sending out the copy to you as soon as we get your contact information. So I'll be sending you an email and asking you to get me your particulars for Esther to send that to you. Congratulations. And I wanted to thank you all. Again, I wanted to thank Cyd, because Cyd, you're a green warrior. You come on here all the time, so often, and keep doing all these wonderful things for us, and you share your expertise and your culinary magic. And Green Warriors and I really appreciate your knowledge about and your commitment to promoting health and wellness through clean, plant-powered eating. And Cyd, what's your final take-home message for our Green Warriors?
To beware of the 3 food mistakes that most people make. Figure out your motivation for eating this way, because right, we're not on earth for very long, and we want our lives to be happy and functional and free of disease, free of preventable disease. So hang in there, stick with the whole food plant-based diet. When the motivation wanes, pull one of our tips out of your pocket. Go back and watch Amy's podcast that we did called 4 Mental Tips to Stay Motivated. And I hope one of those will resonate with you.
Okay, and why don't you tell us you told us a little bit at the end of your presentation, but I want you to give you an opportunity to say it again. How can we get a hold of you? Where can we find you? Tell us all about you.
My name there is, as you see it, cydnotter.com. That's where if you sign up for my weekly mailer, which comes out on Wednesday, you'll get 10 free dessert smoothies, which are delicious and easy to make. There's a free 21-day meal plan, signed copies of my book, the free webinar that you saw a little portion of today. And then if you watch that free webinar and you want to book a complimentary call with me, you're free to do that as well. And I just am releasing a new course very soon. It's called Food, Faith, and Fulfilling Your Purpose, with 22 different speakers, and that'll be released very soon. And I'm sure you know many of them, including Esther Loveridge.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. That is so exciting. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of great information. Well, Green Warrior, tell us, what are you going to remember? One of my takeaways from today is to remember that our stomach is about the size of our fist. And so we should be mindful of how much we eat, because we have those stretch receptors and we don't want to stretch them out. I also wanted to thank Jess Taz Voice for doing the countdown, and she did the promo, and she's been so helpful in promoting this broadcast to all of you. And Jess Taz Voice, tell us who is coming up next.
Ever wondered why so many suffer from common abdominal diseases such as fatty liver, gallstones, pancreas issues, coronary artery sclerosis, and kidney stones? Learn what's not in any Harvard medical textbook and what most doctors don't know about abdominal diseases. Join us as we learn practical insights and no-nonsense wellness strategies from Peter Rogers, MD, Wednesday, April 17th, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, on Be Green with Amy Live.
Well, thank you, Green Warrior, for joining us today. Your engagement and your support make these discussions meaningful and impactful. And I really hope that you're feeling inspired to take a closer look at your food choices and make some positive changes for your health and well-being. And remember, every bite we take is an opportunity to nourish our bodies and become the healthiest versions of ourselves. So please stay tuned for more empowering content, and please subscribe to my channel and to Cyd's channel, and share my message with others who can benefit, because together as Green Warriors, we can make a meaningful difference in the world. And as a special thank you to all of you, I am offering you 5 free recipes. So if you go to my website, begreenwithamy.com/join, I'll send you 5 free recipes, one at a time, and you'll get some encouragement and some fun motivational tips. It'll be a lot of fun to visit you. So please go ahead and do that. And if you would like to join me and Cyd, I'd like to invite you to take your right hand and grab your left shoulder, and take your left hand and grab your right shoulder. Now squeeze, because that's a hug from me to you, Cyd. Thank you, all of you, for joining. If you would like to type in the comments my tagline and join me and Cyd as we say my tagline. Are you ready, Cyd?
Ready?
Okay. Until I see all of you again, remember, be strong, be well, and be green. Thank you so much, Cyd. It was just wonderful. And thank you, Green Warriors, for joining. Bye-bye,
Thank you so much,
everyone.
Amy. Bye-bye.
Looking for really tasty recipes that are SOS free? No sugar, oil, or salt. How can it taste good? Well, if you like flavor, then you'll love this Be Green with Amy recipe ebook. Get your copy today. Click on the link in the show notes. Be strong, be well, and be green.